Listen to your heart, tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart, tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. If you just believe, 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 Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. Just believe. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. Just believe. You 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 just believe. Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart, 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 heart. Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are the one for me. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe. You just believe.
Good evening, chat. Good evening. Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I was ill. Christmas happened. Hope you all enjoyed the festive period. I don't currently have the chat up in front of me, so I can't actually see. Let me do that real quickly. But as you can see, I do have a very special guest, Mr. Harry Briggsy. Do you want to say hello, mate? How's it going?
Alan, great to be on this channel. Obviously, we know that we've not been around for ages. Hugh's been busy with family commitments and other personal commitments. Presume you've been the same, but late night chat, good to be back.
I know, mate. I know. I've missed doing these. I know I did a live stream. What was the last one after United, after the derby? It would have been something like that where I did say I wanted to bring them back. And I mean, listen, you came to me with the idea. This was your idea. You wanted to chat some shit, get some things said, because I mean, at the time we were what, like 1 win in 12, 1 win in 13, 2 wins in 13, something like that. And I mean, we're a little bit better now. We've won 2 on the bounce, which I guess is something to celebrate. Because I mean, the state that we were in for those 2 months is something that I never, ever, ever thought that I would ever see. I don't know about you. I assume you're the same. I don't think I'd ever thought I'd see that bad. Like, I knew it could get bad. I knew that post-pet maybe it could get, a little bit sticky, but I didn't think that it would be like 2 wins at 13 bad.
I mean, I expected a little dip after the Rodri injury. Not you can do about that, but to say that form, wow. But I am going to be real with you, mate. Some games I enjoyed it because I've got to remember, after all that success we've had, we've been through it all, we've won it all, and to have a little dip in the South Stand level one. It was quite entertaining to see just the fans having a good time rather than just winning games for fun.
I know. I mean, listen, I understand some of the people who maybe relished it a little bit at the start because, again, it's been a while since we've been that bad. It's almost like a throwback. But I mean, of course, you offer a different point of view because you're a match-going fan. You go to a lot of the games. You were there for a lot of them games in that run, and I remember I've asked you a couple of times before when you were in the chat. You know, how was the feel inside of the stadium? And I guess this is, you know, a perfect opportunity to ask that question again. Because I mean, you're very active on Twitter. You see things all the time. I know you're very vocal with, you know, certain people's opinions. Let's just say that. But I mean, was the reaction just was the reaction just completely different inside of the stadium? Because I know there wasn't like a lot of booing or you know, there might have been a little bit. You know, in a few of them games because, you know, some people do naturally just have really high standards because those are the standards that we set. But I mean, I guess, was it any different? Was the feeling sort of you don't want to boo the team because of, I mean, what you just said, the memories and all the things that they have achieved? Is it more of a, you know, you get behind them until the wheels fall off sort of thing?
I think what it is obviously, yeah, the run was literally ridiculous. I mean, yeah, you can expect the drop off with your pivot coming off, basically being injured. But with where we've gone from winning the treble 18 months ago, 4 in a row just last season, gone. It's hard to know what kind of team comes out nowadays because with them losses and everyone used to winning, they feel deflated, don't they? Like the morale's gone. They're literally rock bottom, so they need us in the stands to pick them up. They need people on Twitter to pick them up. They don't want to be reading bad shit on Twitter, like saying, "Oh, De Bruyne is shit, Haaland's lazy, Nathan Ake is injury prone, Kyle Walker's shit." I mean, we've had this conversation about Walker on the channel loads of times. You and Hugh, me included, with you both. But you can say what you want, but they need the squad the fans behind them, whether it's online, Twitter. But what you've got to remember is, in the stadium, it did feel a bit not as toxic, but there comes a point where you've got to say enough's enough with respect. Like I said to you, for example, I've enjoyed the last few games in that losing run, but the Everton game hit me hard. The United game hit me hard. Losing to United, literally gifting them that game, was a bit of a shell shock. And that's just like, yeah, you can't do that. And the Everton game, it was just, in my opinion, half-assed. And I said to someone who was in this chat, Jack, I think it was, I was like, what's happened here? I lost my head. Because the performance, I didn't think it was perfect. And I just bowled him at the end, like most of the stadium did. But reality is, mate, we've done it all. The treble, four in a row. We've done 100 points, clean sweep domestically. We've just got to back the players rather than go full ham on them.
I mean, that's kind of the stage that I'm at, where I almost kind of accepted that the league was gone, you know, quite a while ago at this point, and that 5 in a row is not going to happen. I didn't think 4 in a row would ever happen. But I mean, you mentioned Jack Lee. He's in the chat at the moment. Pick up yourself. He said the United result cut deep, and I think that was kind of the one, really, wasn't it? Where regardless of how bad you are, you just don't lose to United. It's just unacceptable. It's one of them where it's circled on the calendar. It doesn't matter how bad that we've been. You know, even when we were really bad, you know, before the takeover and mid-table and in different divisions, you played United. You cannot lose that game. You know, you got to give it your all. And the fact that, you know, we were 1-0 up, going on 80 minutes, something like that, and it was
Is it 8 to 7?
It was late 80 minutes, and to throw it away like that, like we've done it before. We've done it Real Madrid away in the Champions League, 3 years ago, where we were 1-0 up. at the Bernabeu and we concede 2 in like 5 minutes, go into extra time, we lose. We concede again and we lose. I mean, we've done that so many times this season. All the late goals, which was the Dutch side? Was it Feyenoord that we played? We're 3-0 up.
Yeah.
And we draw 3-3,
another
and
game.
it's like, it's another game where you look at it and you go, regardless of how bad you're playing, if you're 3-0 up, you don't
At home as well.
Yeah, you do not win that game. You have to win that game. You can't draw. And the draw felt like a loss. And it's those sorts of games where when you're in a bad run, going to Villa away, I didn't expect anything, to be honest.
To be fair, right, mate? Sorry. To be fair, that Feyenoord game, yeah, you're 3-0 up. And again, I mentioned this to Jack because that night I didn't go to that game because I was working. And I seen the score, I was at work 3-0. And then I had to dip off at about the 70th minute to get back to my job. And then thinking it's, okay, conceding one's fine, but to concede 3 in the space of 15, 20 minutes, that was unforgivable. You can't excuse a 20-minute collapse, can you?
No. And it's those sorts of games that when you're in a bad run, it just makes it feel worse because you look at games and you go, well, that one was winnable. And that one was winnable. We could have got something from that one. Do you know what I mean? Where you look at games and you go, there was something there that, we could have put an end to the run, maybe, got a bit of a psychological boost, but we just threw it away. And, we did the same thing against Everton where we went 1-0 up. We'd had a couple of chances in and around that. Bernardo Silva, I think, missed a sitter in that game. Vardiol hit the post in about 3 minutes. It's those sorts of ones. And then Everton grabbed the goal. And I mean, in the last 10 minutes of that game, especially the last minute of injury time, where Everton had a 4-on-2 at the end, they could have won that game. And then you're looking at, we don't even get a point from that game. Everton at home, Everton who have got 8 wins all year. And we lose that game. And it's those sorts of things where there almost didn't seem a way out. Again, there were certain games that I had no hope for. Aston Villa away for me was just a write-off. There's no chance we were winning that game, in my opinion, even though, the scoreline, you might look at it and go 2-1, but, I mean, I think in the first 30 seconds of that game, we almost conceded twice. It just looked long from the start of that one. And then you get to Leicester, and I kind of had a bit of hope because Leicester, I know they got Rude as a manager, and they might have had a little bit of a bounce, but I was kind of thinking if we're going to end the run, it has to be here. They're a newly promoted side. I know we're away from home and we're on an awful run, but you're thinking that is the game where you can get something and you can turn it around. And while we did that, it wasn't comfortable, was it? The scoreline didn't really tell, the tale of that game. It wasn't the most comfortable of 2-0s you will see.
Yeah, I'm going to be real, right? So I'll just throw it back to the Everton game quickly. Everton, with all due respect, they've done well against the big teams. Chelsea, Arsenal. I think they just get beat to United. They've done well against some of the big sides. So when it came to the Everton game, I genuinely expected sit back, park the bus Everton, and we'll either win 1-0 or draw 0-0. Because that's what you get from Everton. Then you roll it forward a couple of days later to the Leicester game. Yeah. Like you said, on paper, newly promoted team, even though we've been very shaky at the back. But you should be thinking, if you beat Leicester, it's the kickstart of something because you should get a win against Leicester and you can slowly build on your performances. Like the West Ham game the other day, that was just about getting the W. And now we've got Salford coming for a weekend. I think that's the perfect chance to say, do you know what? Let's put in a performance. Let's try and experiment somewhere that we can build for the long term. Just get the W's on the board, and performances will come later.
Well, I mean, that's the stage that we're at now, isn't it? Really, with all the injuries and the messes of the team and the chopping and changing, players are playing that aren't fully fit. Pep was saying that Ake's not been fit for this entire run that he's been playing. So it literally is about just getting, results. And if we do beat Salford, I mean, God forbid we lose that game. I don't know what the reaction's going to be if that happens. It's just, I can't even think about it. I know we're bad, but we can't be that bad. You know what I mean? But if we win that game...
Looking to United 2.0. United 2.0.
Watching
Neville,
Gary Neville
Nicky
celebrate
Butt.
on the sideline with all of his United mates.
Scores.
No, can't be having that. But if we win that game, it's 3 wins in a row. Which, again, on paper, you look at that and you go, maybe you can start to put something together. Because our running after that is horrible. I don't know whether you've seen it. I think there's Brentford away. Ipswich. We go to Arsenal soon enough as well. I think Brighton is in there again.
You've got the Paris game as well, if you think about the Champions League.
PSG. Hey, listen, Champions League is looking a little bit shaky. We might not actually make the qualifying round. We're not making top 8. We're not making the 8 teams that automatically make the knockouts.
That's unrealistic. I can even say that.
That's done. That's done. But there's a genuine chance because we've got PSG away. And another couple of games in there. I forget who the last 2. I think one of them is Bruges.
Last game.
Bruges, which is at home, I believe. So
again, so you would hope away and Bruges at home.
You would hope we'd beat Bruges. PSG is looking a little bit sticky, but there's a genuine chance that we don't make the playoffs. The next round of the 16 teams that go through and play a playoff to get to the knockouts. We might not make that. And I mean, I thought it was. I never thought we'd be in that situation at the start of the season, but I guess you kind of have to face reality and kind of just stare it in the face. And I mean, I don't really think there's any chance that we will win it. So, I mean, where do you stand with the Champions League knockouts? Is it just complete and utter failure if we don't make it past this new league phase?
I'll tell you something, yeah. When it was start of the season, we should all be expecting to be in the title race and obviously comfortably getting through that top 8 because we are one of the big teams in Europe now. But to fast forward it to today and where we are now, like 5th in the Premier League, is it? And obviously, literally on thin ice with the playoff situation, just above like the elimination zone. You would have never pictured that with City, like we've said. But I've been funny. This is a predicament we're in. We have to go all guns blazing with the Champions League as well as the Premier League now because Champions League, yeah, you're possibly not going to win away to Paris, but they're like us. They're in like a bit of a shit at the minute with Champions League. They must win against us. We must win against them if they want to get into the playoff bracket. And same with the Premier League. We need to do all we can. But Paris, I'm predicting a draw. And then Bruges, all being well, if we're back on track with the form, I reckon we could beat Bruges and put us in that playoff bracket. If we lose against Paris, yeah, that Bruges game becomes all or nothing, do or die. And you don't want to be like that on match day 8. You want to make sure you've got a bit of certainty where you know where you're going. With Bruges at home, you couldn't write the script, could you?
We couldn't, but I mean, this is the reality. I mean, Jack Lee in the chat saying I'll take a draw at PSG. I'm completely the same. I think if we were to get a draw in Paris, given the way that we are, that's not a bad result. But I mean, it's unprecedented.
It sets the tone for Bruges, doesn't it? Though,
yeah.
If we lose against Paris, then yeah, everyone's like shitting against Club Bruges. But if we get a draw or win v Paris, then it's a bit more a safety net.
I mean, it's literally unprecedented territory. We've never or at least not for a number of years, we've never been in a situation where going into the last 1 or 2 games of the group stage or this now league phase, we've not been qualified. Normally by this point, we've played 4 games, we've won at least 3 of them, we're top of the group and we've qualified. The last 2 Champions League games normally mean nothing to us, but the fact that we're going into the last 2 Champions League games, and it's expanded as well. So, we've already played 6, and these are matches 7 and 8, and we might not qualify. Is something that, again, we just not something that you become accustomed to, and you have to stare reality in the face. And the reality is that we've put ourselves in this position. We threw it away against Feyenoord. We didn't take our chance. Sporting. I mean, that was not a 4-1 game, but that's how it ended. So, you got to take that one. Juventus didn't take our chances. Juventus did take their chances. We lost that game as well. And, overall, we got off to a good start, but our start was not the hardest of teams to play against. You know what I mean? So it's one of them where this is not something that many people expected. I think when the draw was made, people were relatively happy with the teams that we actually drew in the format. So it's just a weird situation, but I don't really have hopes of winning it. So I don't. I still want to get through to the knockouts because, I mean, you never know. Look at some of the sides that have won it. That Chelsea team that beat us, they were no great side. Real Madrid have won it a couple of times where they might not have deserved it, but things went their way. And that's what can happen in knockout football. That is the one thing that you kind of cling to. In knockout football, anything can happen, any results can happen, any team can really beat anyone. You've seen teams like Dortmund in the final, Tottenham in the final, things like that, things that, again, most people never thought would have happened. And that's just kind of the competition. So, you've got to at least try. I do think it would be a failure if we don't make the knockouts or at least the playoffs, because, I mean, getting grouped in the Champions League is, we've qualified for the Champions League for the last, I don't even know how many years now, and we pride ourselves on being, setting that bar of consistency of qualifying, and to not make the knockouts would be very disappointing. But there is a point here from the Mad Hatter, who says, our biggest issue is the defence. We cannot stop leaking goals. Until Pep slows it, we will drop points to better teams. Now, this is a point that I want to make because I feel like we need to try and discover the root of the problem, why we're not winning games and why we're throwing results away. I mean, I don't know where you pinpoint this. I've been very vocal on the fact that I think it's mainly down to the midfield. I think the midfield is slow. There's not enough legs in there. There's not enough physicality. There's, which, again, it doesn't help when you lose Rodri, who adds a lot of that. But, with Gundogan playing and Kovacic playing, and, we've had a midfield three of Rico Lewis, Bernardo Silva, and Ilkay Gundogan, and it's just, there's not really a lot to it. I mean, do you put it down to midfield? Do you think that defensively there's just been so many forced changes that there's not enough chemistry? Or, what's the main issue with the fact that, I mean, we are conceding goals?
Yeah, for the defensive side of things, the 2-in-1 here goes, we've never had a stable back line, especially in that like bad run we was in up to Leicester. Never been like the same back four, and part of that's because of the injuries. Obviously, you know what you're getting from Johnny Stones. He's always injury prone, no fault of his own, but it's the way his body's going at the minute. Nathan Ake's becoming injury prone as well. Josko Gvardiol, he's done well where he can, but sometimes he's been cooked. Sometimes with that, that's not his fault. It's just obviously how his confidence is going at the minute. Then you've got to remember the midfield situation. We was all excited in the summer. Gundogan's coming home, but you can't plan for the injuries. You can never plan for the injuries. Like when we go back to pre-season, the Oscar Bob injury, everyone was buzzing over Bob, and then all of a sudden breaks his leg. We didn't know that was going to be the start of our injury hit season. We just thought that was one bad injury. And then when Rodgers gets injured, Gundogan's forced into a role that he was only meant to play on a cover basis or 20, 30 minutes here and there, coming off the bench. Gundogan, I've been vocal about this on Twitter. I think I'm not blaming Gundogan for once. Like some people might blame Gundogan, or Barca have killed him. He's a shadow of what he was in the treble season. Gundogan's being played because there's no options there. So he can't do what he could do 5-6 years ago. His stamina is going, and that's because of age. His legs are going. You've got to respect that rather than say, Gundogan's shit, Gundogan's past it. If Roger didn't get injured, I know that's very hard to predict because you can't predict the injury, but if Rodri was here, Gundogan would be in a very much fitter and sharper place because he'd be able to play games here and there, like your Club Brugge, your Bratislava back at the start of the season, and your cup matches like for Saturday, obviously. Now he's on his bare bones because he's struggling. In terms of, this is a strange one. Can I just take you all back to when we played Tottenham in the Cup and Brighton a couple of days later?
Yeah.
Jemai Simpson Pusey. I don't know what's happened to him. And when we get onto the transfer section later, I'm going to raise this up again, but them games that Simpson Pusey played, I thought he was decent. Apart from that odd mistake against Brighton that led to the goal, I thought he was like a good player that could literally come in, especially with this injury crisis in the back line. He could have come up, set some stamina, got some game time, and supported us through our crisis. But obviously, Pep's seen it different, which is fair enough because he's the manager. But I thought Simpson Pusey might have brought some extra to that struggling back line.
Do we make a couple of interesting points? The people who are agreeing with you, there's Danny here who says it's not on Gundogan at all. Can't expect someone who isn't a man who cover the ground that Rodri does. And I think that's kind of, when you look at it, it's easy to blame Gundogan because, I mean, it is, a massive problem area that we have, but he was not brought in to do this. This was not what we brought him back for. We brought him back because, we'd had him before. We know what he can do. He offers a bit of an experience. He's a leader. He's a winner. And he can come in for the odd game, 20 minutes, 30 minutes here and there, play cup matches, like he said. That was the plan. The plan was he was not a Rodri backup. That was not what he was brought back for. He was brought back to just be an extra body because he was a free transfer. It wasn't planned. It just kind of fell to us, and that's what it was. But now that Rodri's injured, you've got Kovacic in there who isn't, the most stable because he has injury problems as well. And then you go to the weekend against West Ham, he's on a booking for about an hour. So, you take him off just so he doesn't get sent off. You bring Gundogan on, and then shit hits the fan. Literally, the game just turns like that, and West Ham get on the front foot. And, it's nothing that he can do about it. He's being asked to do something that he just simply can't do anymore. He's what, 34? His legs are clearly going. It was never his game to begin with, but, you can maybe get away with it when he was like 5-6 years ago when he was sort of 28, but he's not anymore. He's not, and to expect him to do that is unfair. So it's kind of not really his fault. But I mean, it is part of the problem because that obviously handicaps us because every time the game turns into a transition game, which happens a lot against us because teams do still, even with how bad we are, they still do sit back. So, when we lose the ball, it's very quick. It's transition-based football, very counter-attacking, and that's where a lot of our problems come from because our defence at the moment isn't playing particularly well. Like, to a man, they're all kind of a little bit, Vardy's struggling, Rico Lewis is struggling, but I mean, they've played pretty much every single game because they've had to. Ake's been struggling because he's been injured. Akanji's struggling because he's been injured. Diaz is injured. Stones is injured. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's not really been any stability, and when your midfield is basically being ran through like it's not even there because of the lack of legs, you get them situations where you get like 4-on-3 or 3-on-2, and it's hard for the defense to cover that. So it's kind of just a mix of multiple different issues, and that's why January can be a turning point because we can solve some of them issues. I know we've been linked to defenders. I'm surprised we've not really been concretely linked to a midfield player. I know there's been a couple of names thrown about, but there's nothing like major happening in that department. Of course, there's that striker, Marmoush, which, again, that's another issue is, apart from Haaland, we've not really had a guy who's consistently looked like scoring. Savio's added a couple recently, but it took him a while to get going. You look at Grealish and Doku, they've never really looked like consistently being a threat. Foden's threat has fallen off significantly since last year in terms of in front of goal and scoring. De Bruyne has been in and out of the team, but he's more of a creative player. And again, Gundogan is someone that you think would add goals, but because he's being asked to play further back, he's not really able to do that like he was, a few seasons ago. So, there's so many issues in this team, and it's something that we do need to address. I mean, the transitions are killing us, but there's nothing we can do about that because, I mean, if we want to have most of the ball, then the game naturally just going to be transition based. And if that hurts us, we've got to find a solution. And you mentioned Simpson Pusey, and I tend to agree. I don't know why he's not been given more of a chance with the defensive injuries we've got. That's kind of been my one thing that I will put some blame on Pep for. It is his lack of trust with some of the younger players. I'm looking at McAtee, for example, when he came on against Leicester, absolutely brilliant. Just why have we not seen more of him? Simpson Puzzi, we've been struggling defensively
O'Reilly
with bodies.
even.
O'Reilly as well. He will be a player that would add legs into midfield. He's a big lad. He can get about the pitch. Looked good in pre-season. I thought he looked decent in the Community Shield against United as well. He's not been bad. And it's just some of them where, Jacob Wright, natural number 6, holding midfield player. That is his position. And we lack one of those. And I don't think he's got on the pitch this season. He might have done against Watford in the Cup, maybe. But that would be it.
Yeah, he did.
Like that's it. That's it. I get the thinking and the thought process of, like, I understand that Pep wants to stick with his guys. He said this before in one of his press conferences, that he wants to give the opportunity to the players that have won all these trophies and won all of these games and set all of these records. He wants to give the opportunity to those players to get us out of this mess, because they've effectively put us in it. So he wants to give them the chance to get us out of it because of what they've done previously. But there becomes a point where you've won one game in 12 where you just have to go, it's not working. And you have to change something. And the one thing that we've been lacking is energy and, a lot of running about and covering ground and just overall care. There was a few games that, and I'm not the only one who thought this, but there's a few games where some players just look so disinterested and they look like they just couldn't, they don't want to be there. And then you look at the young players and it's like, they want to be there. I know for a fact that they want to be there, and they will try and they will give everything that they've got with the opportunity that they get. And that's the one thing that I will give Pep a little bit of stick for, is his misuse of the young players that we've got. Because, again, 1 win in 12, what have you got to lose? It can't get any worse. It literally can't get worse.
No, for me, it's like when he started his management career at Barca, I swear he was like a big fan of like using the youth and like trying to develop it at Barca. And then obviously when he started off at City as well, he was like, yeah, I'm going to try and put some energy into like the academy and build them up. But obviously this season, the games like the Feyenoord and for me, Everton, where I got so pissed off I lost my head because it was like really half-assed and like the Feyenoord collapse. You're just thinking, are these players up for it? But again, because of the last few years, we've got to give them a bit of sentimentality with what they've given us. So I am going to say this, but because of the bad rot, yeah, that's where you can't defend it. But we all knew once upon a time, after all the success we've had, a bad season was coming, an off season. This is it. But we didn't realise that the rot would be that deep. We just expected, we'll end up having a top 4 season and be away from the title for a year. That's okay. But to say that rot literally pulled us out of the top 4, that was the shell shock. Because you got the real, that is a relegation form. And if that was anyone else, because I've seen this online and this is what's pissed me off, some fans are calling for Pep to be sacked, which is crazy.
It's just disgraceful.
I get it, but we are at that club because of we've won everything. A bad season happens, like injuries happen as well. So when you put 2 and 2 together, you're gonna have these bad results where it's gonna get to them, especially when they're used to just winning for like season after season. They've won so many trophies, they forgot how to lose, and that's what's put us in this bad position. And then when you throw it back to the youth point, you've got to think, if Gundogan's struggling, or Riley's young, he's fresh, he's eager to go, and with like being biased here, he's one of our own. You've got to try that, because, like you say, what else is to lose? Simpson Puzzi, as I mentioned earlier. Them couple of games that he played in that week of the Carling Cup to Tottenham and Brighton, I thought, barring that mistake, he was pretty good and he would have offered something different this season. And like a couple of goals he might have prevented, we don't know. In terms of like, because I remember last season, Mika Hamilton against Huddersfield in the Cup. Again, it's only a championship team, but people was impressed with him. And then I swear he got a couple of starts in the Premier League last season because of that cup performance. That
Champions
should
League.
be like, yeah, was it Champions League?
Champions League, we played, was it? I can't remember who we played, but it was game 5 or game 6 of the group stage. And he played the kids. There was Rico Lewis, there was Micah Hamilton. There was a couple
I
of
remember
others
in
in
the
there.
FA Cup as well.
Yeah, I was. I think I was there for that Huddersfield game, and we go a few goals up, and he brings some of the younger players on, and they look good. They impress at the minute.
Want.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what you want now, because if some fans are questioning the senior pros, the window's not open until January. I know it's January now, but back then it was like a month half away. What have we got to lose? If you're not happy with seniors, why not throw some of the youth in and let them have a chance? Because if they don't work out, we've seen them, and we can say, yeah, you can cover like when we need cover, or if you're not good enough, let's send you out on loan, for example, so you can get some more development time and experience. But I'm just very shocked about how the academy's being put to one side. Again, I'm not questioning Pep, like saying, get him out of the club. I'm just saying, what's going on here? Why is the youth being put to one side? Especially when starting off as a manager back at Barca, he was a big fan. Otherwise, I know this is a very cliche and obvious one, but how would Messi get to where he was without Pep helping him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one. Our academy for the last...
Sorry, even Phil Foden.
Yeah, I mean...
I know Foden's been crap this year, but look to where he's got last season.
And he's only here because he's a fan. Let's be honest. If he was an academy player who wasn't a fan, he would have left years ago in search of first team football. It's only because he really, really wants to be here that he trusted what, Pep's plan of, you play like 5 games, then you play 10 games, then you'll play 20 games, then you'll start. And, it's like a 3 or 4 year plan of getting into the first team. And he trusted that because he's a fan. Players who aren't fans, players who don't have that sort of sentimental attachment. A Palmer, for example. You look at Brahim Diaz and all of these players that have left, or Sancho's over the years, they ain't going to stick around because they don't have the same emotional attachment. Yes, it would have worked in the end if they were patient enough and they were good enough, which they clearly are because they're playing for top clubs in Europe. It would have worked out the same, but because they have no emotional attachment, they see another club who's willing to give them that chance now, and they take it. They take it. I mean, Cole Palmer would have looked at that Jadon Sancho thing at Dortmund and the way that he left and tore it up in the Bundesliga and came back to the Premier League and got into the England squad. He would have looked at all of that and gone, well, if I can play now, I can do that. There's no reason why I can't do that. And that's what he did. He looked at Chelsea, and even though at the time, I think a lot of us thought that it's probably the one place you don't want to go because they have about 50 players and they keep signing more players. But, I mean, credit to him, he was promised games. He was promised that he was going to play, and he backed his own ability to, be able to reach the level that he's at now, which he's a regular international level. He's one of, the highest regarded players in his position in the Premier League in terms of output. He's always up there with goals. I know a lot of it's penalties and people will say that, but output is still output. You know what I mean? It's still there. And that's something that I don't want to see McAtee go down that same road of, I think it was the Mad Hat here says, rumours swelling that Fulham interested in buying McAtee for 40 million. I don't want to see McAtee go down the same route as Cole Palmer, in where he leaves, goes to another club in the Premier League and just absolutely lights it up and just tears it up. I mean, we've seen what he did when he went back on loan to Sheffield United. They were one of the worst teams in the Premier League era in terms of points total and results, and he still looked good. He still looked really good when he was there in the Championship
and that was just his
as well.
development stage.
Yeah, when he was there,
That was
when
before he got from experience.
And then of course he goes back there for the 6 months in the Premier League. Does okay. And it's things like that where he comes on against Leicester, makes the second goal happen. Like, why have we not seen more? I don't understand why we've not seen more.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is with Palmer, yeah? Not Palmer, sorry, McAtee. Because I think we've all been waiting to see McAtee. Like when you read it on Twitter as well, where's McAtee? Why is McAtee not being given a start? I think McAtee knew that himself. He said, why am I not playing? But like he's done a Foden rather than a Palmer, thinking, I need to be patient. And when that time comes, I'm going to click into gear. And when he came on and set up that second goal, like within minutes of when he came on, it was just, he wants to be involved. He wants to be here. He knows why his time hasn't come until now.
I mean, we're in a lucky position that he just has that same attachment as Phil Foden as to where he will stick around. He will stick around for a bit longer than a few other players. But it becomes a point where there are certain, players in there that won't stick around. Oscar Bob, if he doesn't get, opportunities when he comes back from injury, I don't know whether he'll have the same attachment. If another club comes in for him, we'll be reluctant to sell, of course. We always are, but it's not one of them where you look at it and go, he's a City fan, he'll stick around for a bit longer. Someone comes in with a reasonable bid and promises him first-team football, regular first-team football. He might take it. He's not in the same position as a McAtee where, no disrespect whatsoever, but he's already a Norway international. Because it's, he's just easier to get in the Norway squad than it is the England squad. So maybe he's a little bit, sort of more content. But with someone like McAtee, who's been playing, under 21s football for England, he'll want to move up. He'll want to move to the next stage. He'll want to take on the senior team. He'll probably look at someone like Rico Lewis and go, he's sort of broken. He's got first team football and he's now in the England squad. I want to be the next one. I want to be the next one in line to play for the national team, because for as much as I hate international football, I'm pretty sure you're the same. Because it is just dreadful.
Let's wait till Thomas Tuchel's season starts.
Yeah.
Then I'll give you an answer.
For as bad as it can be, a lot of these players, that is one of the ultimate goals of their career, is to play for their country. That is something that most players will want to do. And again, if he doesn't get opportunities, he will just eventually leave, because he knows that there's interest from other clubs. And we won't stop him. Again, we're a club that we pride ourselves on the way we treat players. If someone wants to go, we will not hold them to ransom unless your name is Bernardo Silva, and then Pep will chain you to the wall to stop you from leaving. But anybody else really over the years, you look at Sane, Sterling, those sorts of players. If they want to go, they want to go. We let them go as long as the money is right. Cole Palmer, we never really wanted to sell him, but Chelsea came in with 40-odd million quid for a player who played 10 Premier League games at that point in his career.
Even with Alvarez, we got some money off that one.
Yeah, record ever sale that we've ever done. So again, if a player wants to leave and the money's on the table, we're not afraid of letting him go, even if it sells us short. Again, I'm in this position with Alvarez where I'm still not against the fact that we sold him, because the money was really, really good. It was just more the fact that we just didn't replace him, which is my main problem, is we didn't sign any other backup, even a false nine, even an attacking player. Didn't even have to be a striker, just another attacking player. We just didn't sign one. I mean, I've got the list of transfers up on my phone, because I had to make sure that I wasn't missing anyone, because we did so little that it felt like I was missing someone. But we signed 2 players, and Ilkay Gundogan on a free, and Savinho, who we signed in February, really. So that was the only business that we did. We lost Alvarez. There was a couple of us. Sergio Gomez went. A few more of the young players went. Calvin Phillips went out on loan. No real major misses, but how much do you buy into blaming the board for our current struggles? Really is kind of the next point, because I feel like I myself have lumped a significant amount of blame on the board simply because of how unprepared we are. We had no second option up front. We were light in the attacking areas in terms of goals. We've let Alvarez go and not replacing him. We needed another midfield player. We have done for the last 2 years, really. Because again, Rodri goes down. We have no one now. Rodri's down. We're kind of struggling. So how much of it is board related? Is some of it also Pep related? Did Pep say he was happy with the squad, do you reckon? And kind of went, I don't need any more signings?
That's what I was just going to flip it round on you before I speak about the board. You think this is down to Pep's squad size? Because everyone seems to say he likes a small squad to work with. Do you reckon that's the case?
I think there is something to that. In terms of a striker, because remember we were linked to Kyogo from Celtic, and it was quite concrete, that link. But I remember seeing somewhere that Pep said no, like I'm okay with my options here. I'm okay with what I've got now, and I guess obviously it doesn't help that Oscar Bob got injured, because he would have been a massive part at the start of the season. You can't really plan for that. He might have
into the false nine.
Yeah, you can't really plan for that, but I do believe that there is some element of Pep does like his small squad. He probably was a bit like, listen, unless you can get me like my number one target, I'm not interested.
I just think maybe that Pep small squad rumour is kind of more legit, because he seems like playing with like a certain amount of players every season, and obviously with the Alvarez situation, you're never going to get in front of Erling Haaland, and it seems clear now. Who's going to get in front of Erling Haaland when he's going through a bad patch? Because it's Erling Haaland. So if Oscar Bob was actually playing and he didn't get the injury, he might have come in and adapted to like a false nine when Haaland comes off the pitch, and that'd have been suited to Pep, I reckon. But in terms of the board, how many missed opportunities have we had over the last couple of years to sign certain players? Like, if you remember, after the treble season, linked to Bellingham, Declan Rice, obviously, is that midfield hole that's not being filled up, because remember Kovacic coming in for 25 mil. He wasn't really meant to be a first team player like Gundo this year. And you can't really say FFP against PSR, because when you've got all them sales like Alvarez, 85 million or whatever it was, and you've only spent 20 million on Savio, 25, you've also got to think of how much we sold Gomez for. The money's there to be spent, but the board was just took a back seat if Pep wanted a few more players, and ultimately, now we've seen where we are today. We're in the shit with the midfield, and if Pep's not using the academy where you need O'Reilly's in there, we need bodies in, but it's about the right player, because when Roger comes back in next season, as it should be, Roger's not going to be up to speed, because you don't recover from an ACL like that. It's going to take time to get back into the gears, and he might not be the same Roger. For example, look how long it took Van Dijk to get going back to prime Van Dijk. Didn't happen overnight. It took a few months to build up back to stability for him. So when Roger does get back into the swing of things, what is our midfield going to look like if we sign someone now and they expect to come in and be the number one guy even when Roger's back? I don't know what to expect with this board at the minute, but what I am going to say, we've all got to be patient, because as we've seen in the last few days, all these rumours flying around, and I am going to be real, the inconsistency of these rumours, we're signing this player, we're not signing this player, we're signing this player again, we're not. Let the board just get on with it, and let's see what happens come January. It's not even January 31st, it's February the 3rd, I think it is the deadline day. It's after Arsenal. Let's just see what happens, deadline day, and we can assess how well the board have done, because what you've got to remember is this is Tiki's last window, so when Hugo Viana comes in the summer, if Tiki's not done as much or he's not filled the right positions, that sets Hugo Viana up with a massive challenge the minute he walks through the door in the summer.
Well, I mean, he's already got a massive challenge, because you cannot fix this squad in January. It will not happen. It's just unrealistic to expect we can fix everything.
It needs to start, though, doesn't it, with Tiki, for Hugo Viana not to be thrown right in the shitter.
Yeah. We need to make a start now, because we've still got a season to salvage. Like, we're what, 5th, 6th? We're not in the we're bordering on not being in the Champions League spot for next season. Which again is something that I never thought I would say. I think with the new format and the league rankings and all of this other like point system or whatever. I think we might have 5 Champions League spots next season. So, maybe 5th would get us in. I don't actually know.
But you can't be relying on that 5th
No.
place, Joe. Let's be fair.
No,
5th place is down to is it like the coefficient rankings? So depends not just us, how everyone else does in the Champions League, Europa League, and the Conference. You can't just presume. And I mean, not just you, but fans in general. Whether you're a City fan, Aston Villa, Newcastle, even a United, you can't assume that 5th place spot in England's going to happen. You've got to aim for it. You've got to work to get that top 4 rather than just banking on 5th.
I mean, it's a dangerous game to play to just assume that 5th would get you in. I mean, it might, but again, you want to try and finish as high up as possible. It's again, not something that I ever would have thought about when it comes to how low we would finish. It's just, I mean, it proves how big the fall off is in terms of, we've had a season like this. Remember 1920 where we still finished 2nd. We were a mile off Liverpool. This is completely different because we're not going to finish 2nd. That will not happen. I don't know where we're going to finish. I really don't know where we're going to finish. It all depends on January, really. If we can do a couple of business, if we could do a bit of business, get a couple of bodies in, maybe we can climb back up, 3rd, 4th, maybe.
Okay, then, lad. Here's one for you. Pretend the January transfer window didn't exist yet. Where do you reckon City would finish come May if we didn't have a window?
Oh God. It's hard because I'm trying to think of like the games that we've got left. I mean, we've been to Anfield. We still have to go to Arsenal. Still have to go to Old Trafford.
Old Trafford.
Yeah,
Chelsea have got to come to our gaff.
Yeah, we've still got to play Chelsea. They look really good. Still got to go to Tottenham, who I still believe that the last 2 wins we got there were flukes. Because that stadium just forever haunts me. We've got to go to Forest, who are absolutely flying at the moment. It's just like I don't know whether we get top 4. I'm looking at the teams that are better than us. Forest right now are better than us. Liverpool are obviously the best team in the league at the moment. Arsenal are kind of hit and miss at the moment. I know they lost tonight, but again, defensively they're pretty solid. I know they lost 2-0, but still defensively they're pretty.
What my point was, pretend like I say, if we didn't have a transfer window, you need bodies in to come and aid the team over the next few months. But if we didn't have a transfer window, where would we be?
Probably where we are now, like 5th, 6th.
Or if we didn't sign anyone,
it'd probably be like 5th or 6th. Realistically,
that will have an impact.
Yeah,
that will have an impact, right? Who we sign at the end of the month on where we finish, rather than if we didn't sign anyone or the window didn't exist.
Yeah, but realistically, I'm looking at it and I'm going, Liverpool are better than us, Arsenal are better than us, Chelsea are better than us, Forest are better than us. Right now, who knows how good Forest are going to be come the end of the season? They might rapidly fall off. It wouldn't be a surprise that's happened before. But just with the assumption, I still think Chelsea, Arsenal, and Liverpool are better than us, just as it stands right now. So realistically
that leaves one more
looking,
Champions League spot.
It's anywhere between like 4th and 6th because it just depends how good a Forest going to be and for how long. How good a Villa going to be? Are they going to turn it around? There's a couple of teams like that. But realistically, 4th, 5th, maybe 6th at worst. If we were to stay as we are, we'd be bordering on not qualifying for the Champions League 100%.
So if we sign some players in, does that improve our ranking come the end of May?
If we sign the right players, if we make the right business, I don't want to do this whole that centre back from Lyon in France, the guy whose name I cannot pronounce, who we've been to. That guy, yeah. I've seen something about signing him and loaning him back. It's just not the right business to do.
I thought that was a CFG.
We need bodies. So we can't afford to be signing these CFG players who we sign and we send back out on loan. And we need bodies now. And for me, I mean, if I was to rank what we need, number 1 is a midfield player, a stable midfield player. Number 1 priority for me. Number 2 is probably some form of attacker, someone to get goals. And then number 3 is defense, just a defender, whether it's a fullback or a centre back or someone who could play both. I think that's kind of third priority. I'm very surprised that we've been linked to, I think we've been linked to like 2 centre backs now. It's just not something that I expected. I really expected it to be, a midfield heavy window. But I've not really seen any links to any midfielders, so it kind of depends who we get. But if we were to get a midfielder, I don't know who. There's obviously been Edison at Atalanta. There's been that Richie fella. Zubimendi's name keeps getting thrown about. Bruno's name will never go away. That won't happen in January, not a chance. But I mean, if we were to get, Zubimendi is the dream. If we're being realistic, release clause. Spanish international. He was Rodri's backup. He's kind of the dream. If we get him, our 4th spot looking tasty. Maybe we could challenge for 3rd, because who knows what Arsenal are going to do? Because obviously Saka's out for like 2 months, so we don't know actually how their season's going to pan out. They're still in every competition. Again, they lost tonight, but there's still a second leg. FA Cup against Man United, Champions League still going in that. They're still within sort of like fingertips of a Premier League title race. I know the gap's quite big and Liverpool have a game in hand, but we've been in that situation before. So that they can't really just give up there. But who knows how their season is gone. But obviously, first is a lock, Liverpool, and barring a major collapse, Liverpool will win the league. And then it's kind of just based on January. If we do business, maybe we can catch up to the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal. If we don't, then again, we might not qualify for the Champions League. That's just where I see it.
Right. I'm going to be real, because I'm game for this. Would a season in Europa League be that bad?
I wouldn't necessarily be totally against it, but you'd have to win it. You would have to win it. No questions asked.
Just one season.
Yeah. It'd be nice. It'd be a change because, we'd be playing mainly teams that we'd never played before, which would, be a nice change because it's always nice to play someone new. And it's a competition that we've never won because we haven't really had many cracks at it, but we've never won it. So it would be different, and it would be a good opportunity for some of the younger players, you'd imagine, if they're still here, to get some minutes, because we've seen Chelsea in the Conference League. They didn't even register Cole Palmer, and I don't think Nicholas Jackson is registered for their league phase.
I think that's a totally different ball game, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chelsea should be at least minimum Europa League, never mind Conference. It'd be the same if it was United.
Yeah, but we could take that Chelsea approach of maybe not registering players, but you know what I mean? Letting the academy players play in the Europa League, because the teams won't be as good as they are in the Champions League. And of course, it makes it more difficult for the league, if we're being honest, because Thursday, Sunday is a nightmare. That's the only negative I can think of.
The youngsters, the first team on the weekend, don't you?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be against it, because it would be a funny thing to win, maybe, because I just never expected us to be in the Europa League.
New ones.
Again, like for match-going fans like yourself and many others in the chat who I know go to games, it's something new. It'll be teams, countries, places that we ain't never been, or we haven't been in a long time, and new experiences. And again, it'd be a good opportunity to take the sort of Chelsea approach to things in the Conference League. Teams have done this, other teams have done this as well in the Premier League. They use a lot of young players and academy players in the Europa League and in the Conference League. And we could do that. And that would be a good opportunity to see the likes of Nico O'Reilly and Jacob Wright and all of these players that we've wanted to see, because they might make a difference. And that'd be a good opportunity. So I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world. It's not what I'm aiming for still, but if it happens, it happens. Like I'm not too pushed. But the only thing I would say is it is a complete and utter failure if you don't win it. If you don't win the Europa League, it's just complete failure. Nothing else is acceptable. You'd have to win it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Definitely. Obviously, Champions League's always a game. And if you don't get Champions League, then you're thinking, shit, we need to win this European competition.
And the money's a
But-
big issue as well, for the money that you get for qualifying for the Champions
Yeah, I
League.
can see Andrew mentioning that in the chat about you'd lose revenue. Revenue's fine, but if it was just like the culture shock, we'd need the reset. Do you know, like I say, to get the team back, because obviously this transition from like your Gundogan's, your Kovacic's, Kyle Walker's, De Bruyne's, whoever, even your Edison, for example, in goal. We need to reset the team, don't we? And this is going to take 2 seasons, probably. You're not going to literally get a brand new team overnight. It's going to take at least 4 windows to literally build a brand new span up. Because if you look back to, was it the 2017-18 rebuild?
Yeah.
Look how many players came through that window in the summer of 2017. But Pep was still tampering around with a squad. Like, how many fullbacks did we buy, really? We didn't get the right fullback in. Oh, well, we didn't even get a fullback in the end. But that's what we've got to do. Tamper around with a squad and take as many windows as possible to get the perfect squad to build a long-term future.
Well, we need to go back to being ruthless, really, don't we? You mentioned all them years ago of the 2017 summer window. You can even go back to 2016, Pep's first transfer window. He signs John Stones, he signs Gundogan, he signs Nolito was in there, Bravo, and that was super ruthless because after that one season, we just about finished 4th. We just about finished in a Champions League spot. Absolutely ruthless. Claudio Bravo not good enough. 2 goalkeepers in 2 years.
Next season.
2 goalkeepers signed in 2 years. He realised Bravo wasn't up to standard and signed another goalkeeper. Nolito
Even
wasn't
with Joe
good
Hart.
enough. Yeah, even with Joe Hart. First day through the door, right, signing another goalkeeper. Nolito was binned after 1 season. Sane was given a bigger role. He was a signing in his first season, and then you look into that second season, binned off all the fullbacks we basically had and signed completely new ones. Walker came through the door. Fabian Delph ended up at left back that season. Zinchenko ended up at left back as well. Danilo from Real Madrid. Again, he basically signed 4 fullbacks.
Mendy.
He was ruthless when it came to that transfer window. If you weren't good enough, you were out the door. And then again, in that season, or was it the season after? I think it might have been the season. No, I think it was that season, January. We signed Laporte because there was a hole.
Yeah.
And we signed another defender in January because we wanted Van Dijk, we can't get him, he's too expensive. Let's go for our second choice. Let's get in another defender because we need one. Because Stones had his injury problems. Otamendi had his problems with just being rash at times. Company had his injury problems. I think Mangala was still at the club for some reason. There was a hole there at centre-back, so in January we decided, right, we're going to sign one. And again, it's that sort of ruthlessness that, we tried to sign Mahrez in January, we got priced out, we went back in for him in the summer and got him for, less than what we would have paid in January. And it is that sort of thing where we've normally been really good at transfers in terms of replacing players before they become, worse than they are, and fixing problems before they arrive, and just being overall ruthless. Aguero, end of his contract, you're not good enough anymore, we're going to let you walk. David Silva, you want to go? Okay, we're fine with that. Got Phil Foden coming through, and we can sign a few players. We've not been ones to shy away from
Aguero as well.
Yeah, booting legends out the door essentially, and going, right, well, we can just replace you. You know what I mean?
We went a season without a striker, didn't we, with Aguero?
We basically went 2 seasons without a striker because he didn't play much. He didn't play much the season before that, did he? Really? And then of course we go the year without him.
His injuries.
Yeah, we go the year without him, and obviously we all remember Gabriel Jesus. He just couldn't hit the target or stay on side to save his life, and he ended up playing out on the wing that season. We played without a striker again. So we're good with letting players walk out the door if they want to go, or if we deem them not to be good enough. But we've become weirdly complacent in the last 2 seasons, or the last 2 summer transfer windows with signings and trying to replace players. I mean, look at the last 2 summer transfer windows. You've got Gundogan on a free, Savinho, young player, Doku, young player, Vardiol, probably the only real massive hit, at least so far. Of course, you look at you
Take it
look
back
at
to the treble season, sorry. Right? It was the same in the treble season. We got our Galactico, and that was it, our superstar,
Yeah.
Haaland.
Alvarez came in, was a development player. Ortega came in on a free, he was just a backup goalkeeper. Like, nothing really wow.
Phillips.
Phillips came through, didn't really pan out, but he was only supposed to be a backup. Haaland was the only real hit there. And then, again, next summer window, Vardio, the only real hit, at least so far. Doku, I don't know what's going to happen there. But you look at Nunes, barely gets a game. Kovacic, probably, you're looking at next season, probably shouldn't even be here. He was only really a stopgap to begin with. Like, he was only really a short-term solution. And again, Gundogan on a free and Savinho in the last summer transfer window. I think Savinho will be a hit. I really do think that he will be a hit because he's looking really, really good at the moment. And I do think he has the potential, as long as he, keeps going the way he is. But in terms of the last two summer transfer windows, again, you can extend it to 3, but of course Haaland came in, so it's kind of, 50-50 with that one. But, since then, it's weirdly complacent. It's not like replacing with ready-made players like we used to do. We used to go out and sign players with pedigree. Mahrez signing, players like that, and signing Cancelo. It took him a season to get going, but even that signing Rodri, signing players with maybe Rodri was a little bit less experienced, but we've done really well at signing players. And the last couple of summer transfer windows, we've done awful. If we're being real, we've done really, really bad at replacing and signing the players that we need, because a lot of these players are project players. They're players that are going to take 2, 3, maybe even 4 years to really get going. Like, I see a load of people going on about that Claudio Echeverri, the Argentinian kid. What are we expecting him to turn our season around? Like, he's a player that I'm expecting to probably go out on a loan or 2.
Hold up a sec, sorry. Do you remember Maximo Perrone when he had his cameo at Bournemouth?
Where's he at now?
Now he's nowhere to be seen.
Where's he at now? Like, they are not.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's
what I'm thinking with Echeverri, and then we'll get this Kushinov kid in. Is Kushinov going to be following in the footsteps of Echeverri and Maximo Perrone out on loan, and then another CFG signing?
Like, it's not the sort of signings that we've been accustomed to, and it's just, it feels like we're taking our eye off the ball significantly. We've not really done what we used to do, and that's why I pin a lot of it on the board. Because, I mean, are you satisfied with the players that we are linked with right now in terms of the rumours that you have seen? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed.
You see, I could take you back a little bit further. I know Tiki wasn't a director of football back then, but do you remember the summer of 2010, where we got like David Silva in, Yaya Toure, then the season after, Aguero, like you said, ready-made superstars, ready-made talent and world-class talent. Now, like I say, we get like one Galactico every couple of years. Now, I know the squad's not supposed to be about getting your superstars left, right and centre, but at least have some good players ready, like, that can step up to the plate. Because obviously, the Calvin Phillips one, that's gone down the drain, hasn't it?
That was on him, though. That was completely because of his application and just unwillingness to work and put in the effort to get fit.
I think I've said it before, though, on here. I think it was more the case of, the Barca injury didn't help, and then obviously moving on to the World Cup and then being forced back into England without the England team, without having a proper rest recovery. And then that just set him off to not look after himself. But then, what I'm saying is, I've also got to think about what are these players going to be for, like Kushinovs, Echeverris, Perrones, CFG signings. I said it a few weeks on BBC Radio Manchester. I'd be all for Laporte on a short-term contract for like till the summer, just so we've got some experience in that team. A type of player that's got leadership, unity about them, not someone for the future. Because I'm going to be real. Say this Kushinov's not a CFG signing. Are you expecting him to come on in the Man City team when it's like just slowly starting to get back to reality, normality, and then one blunder and he's the next villain on social media.
Well, that's the thing. He's only a kid, isn't he? So if he makes a mistake and people start getting onto him, that thing could happen. And I mean,
Otherwise,
I guess that's
some Pusey. You might as well just play him rather than go out spending money.
That's the thing that people keep throwing at, whenever somebody says, why isn't Pep playing the youth? But someone will turn around and go, oh, that's because if they make a mistake, they'll get absolute pelters on Twitter and, their confidence will be shot and they'll never be any good. And it's like, well, why are we linked to 20-year-old centre-backs then? It kind of defeats the point, because if they come in and make a mistake, the same thing's going to happen, but we would have spent money on them. So it's even more of a loss, where if you use someone from the academy and they don't pan out, it's... They were free. It cost us nothing, really. So, just use what we've got. So, I'm not particularly interested in who we're linked to right now. That Marmoush guy apparently is one of the better attackers in terms of form in the last sort of season and a half in the Bundesliga. But, I mean, our record of signing from the Bundesliga is great, but in terms of overall in the Premier League, maybe not so. You look at likes of Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, even Jadon Sancho when he came over. He's looked good at Chelsea, but when he came to United, he wasn't great. So it can be a little bit hit or miss. But I mean, look, I would take a backup striker really, because we kind of need one. And if the scouting team has done their due diligence and they've done their homework and they think he's the right man, then listen, I'm not going to be against it, because I'm not going to be against us signing another body and having someone else up there who can play up front, score goals. And, of course, it's a big difference coming from the Bundesliga to playing with us, because we play against two banks of five most weeks. So, it's quite different to the openness of the Bundesliga. But, it's something that I think we do need another attacker. I do think we need another attacker, because the goals, I don't quite know where, if Ireland's not scoring them, I kind of don't really have anyone else that I can consistently say will get us a goal at the moment. There's players who can score, but there's no one really who's consistently done it this season. So it would be one that I'd be sort of interested in. But the whole centre-backs, it's just not appealing looking at we're signing 20-year-olds. It's not the solution that I thought. I mean, I suppose just quickly before we wrap this up, because we have been going for quite a while, do you have a number one target yourself? Is there someone who actually jumped out to you and that you would love to sign?
There isn't anyone in particular, because I've mentioned this before. There's a talent drain. I don't know if he's still in the chat, Danny. I was on FIFA 06 the other night with him, and we was going through how many players there is in world-class positions, how many strikers there used to be, how many midfielders used to be. Now you've only got so many world-class players in each position, because there's a talent drain going on. There ain't enough players to fill roles, because let's be real, would someone like Nunes get in the Man City team of Mancini? I highly doubt it, because there was a lot more world-class players around, or a lot more great players around to fill that void. So I'm going to be real with you. I don't watch a lot of football. I don't know next to nothing about this Mamouche fella. The same with who's the other defensive midfielder we was linked to? Edison. I don't know nothing about him. I'm going to hold my hands up to that. What it is as long as we get someone in just to cover that CDM role, and to be fair, I'd actually go a second midfielder, just so we've got the extra body in case we have another injury with all the amount of games we're playing. We've not mentioned this yet. The Club World Cup in the summer, and by the look of it, they're being forced to play the best players. So you could easily have a couple of injuries in the Club World Cup. But in terms of another thing I was going to mention, it seems to be going off with this Doku Grealish debate again after these Pep comments the other night about Grealish not playing and training as hard as Pep expects him to. What if Oscar Bob comes back and he's slowly playing as he was in the pre-season, gets it going, gets back into the gears? Oscar Bob could come in and take one of them positions on the wing. Or if if, for example, Oscar Bob isn't needed on the wing, he could start playing the false nine when he's fully fit again. And that's another thing. If we go back to the season when we didn't have Haaland, the second part of the 4P, where he was relying on goals around the team, that's what's important. We need players across the border, not just Haaland to score goals. And ultimately, if Haaland's not scoring the goals, some players need to step up. And if they're not stepping up, Haaland's got to step up. But at the minute, I don't know what to expect with the team. It's just about this next, 4 windows, next two January windows and the 2 summers.
That's kind of why I'm not pushed on signing an attacker. Like, if we don't get Marmoush, then I'm not going to be too bothered because I know Oscar Bob's going to come back. And that for me is kind of, if we're only going to sign one player, let it be a midfield player. Because I can deal with the attackers because Oscar Bob's going to come back. I can deal with the defence because hopefully, Ruben Diaz will be back soon. John Stones will hopefully be back as well. And maybe we can get a few bodies back there. But in midfield, there's no one coming back. Rodri's not going to be back. He's not coming back. I know he said he wants to, but it's not going to happen. So
like I said, ACLs will take time to even recover. You won't be your full self. Like you're telling me, when Rodri does step on the pitch again, do you think he's going to be prime Rodri?
No. He'll be like Van Dijk. It'll take him 6 months of actually playing, probably to get back to the level that he was. So that's the one area that really needs addressing, and because there's names thrown about Edison, Richie, I've seen Baleba at Brighton thrown about. I really do like him, but we know what Brighton are like. We try to sell players. My God, they charge like black market prices for their players. They go through the roof. They know what they're doing. They're smart about it, and they're well within their rights to. So it'd be one that would be very difficult to do. But they just, if we're going to sign one, which I believe we will sign at least one, but I'm not as confident in saying we're going to sign a couple, like people are saying 2 or 3. I doubt it very much. Because it's just not like us, but we're going to sign one. Let it be a midfielder. Because that's the only place we don't have anybody coming back, midway through the season. Like, last year we had De Bruyne come back halfway through the season, which helped us a lot. We don't have that. We don't have that luxury, so we need a new player in that position. So that's kind of where I'm at with the transfers. Again, in terms of the run of form that we're on, just beat Salford for the love of God, score a few goals. Course, a few players in there will get rested. I doubt Haaland will play. I doubt De Bruyne will play. So you might, see the likes of Nico O'Reilly and James McAtee play that game. I imagine you would. So that'll be an opportunity to see the youth. I suppose last thing before we leave, anything you want to touch on? Anything? Salford? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, like I say, with the Salford game, I want to see a couple of young boys play because it's a nice experience for them to get some minutes, try and impress Pep. Because next week we've got a double Premier League week. We've got Brentford and Ipswich on the Sunday, Brentford on the Tuesday. Sorry. So if a couple of boys can impress Pep on the Salford match, it might give them a chance to play either side of Brentford or Ipswich, or maybe even they might have a chance in Paris. We don't know yet. It's about what land goes out on Saturday, and you can build on that performance because Salford's the chance to put a performance in. But just go back to the transfer stuff before we call it full time. I just want to say to everyone, please just be patient online. It's Tiki's last window. We know where we're going with this. Like, we just need to remain grounded. We know that we're in a sticky situation on the pitch with injuries, but we're not in the boardroom. We cannot control what goes on in there. All we've got to know is we've just got to have faith and trust, and the board will get this right, hopefully, because they know the problems what we see, because we discuss it in streams, we discuss it in group chats, on Twitter. If we can discuss it, I'm sure they're well aware of it. So just back the board rather than getting impatient and naggy about it.
Fantastic. Listen, Briggsy, absolute pleasure. You've been absolutely amazing. I love having you on. Get a bit of different insight. We'll maybe do this again sometime. Look to see if you're available. Because listen, I like doing these. I miss streaming. I know the people in the chat, they miss the streams. I love doing collabs just in general. Because I like different people's opinions. It's kind of boring when the same people give you the same opinion. So look,
Sorry,
again-
Q.
listen, absolute pleasure. If you don't know who he is for some reason, if you've not been about, his Twitter is on the screen. It's also in the description. Go give him a follow. Constantly giving his opinion on things about City. I know you're a big rugby fan as well.
The
Just
real world.
very opinionated and you're not shy of sharing your opinion. But look, listen, again, absolute pleasure. I will wrap this up now because I've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes. It's ran over a little bit, but again, thanks for coming on. Thanks for giving the idea. This was your idea to do the stream. I'm happy to oblige. But again, anyone in the chat, go follow Briggsy. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the stream if you're watching it on playback. Leave a like. Get your comments in. I'll try and go through them. I don't know what content we have planned next. I'll maybe try and get a video out for Salford. Start doing some previews again, but listen, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks everyone for joining in. Maybe not the numbers that we used to get, but costs. It's natural. We haven't streamed for a while. Hopefully it'll be more soon. Hopefully it'll be more streams. There is something in the works, I will tell you that. But thanks everyone for coming. And we'll see you whenever the next one is.
Listen to your heart. Tell me who you wanna be. We can always start to believe. Listen to your heart. Tell me that you understand. 'Cause you are